2021. For whatever else happened this year, it was a year of many cool, interesting games. I gotta remember the last time a year was so jam-packed full of things I wanted to play, and loads of surprises too. Narrowing my favourites down to just 10 was tricky, so I want to give a shout out to all the other games which didn't quite make the cut, but which you should definitely check out.
It's a slow ride, it's a slow ride. It's a slow ride, it's a slow
Take infinite amounts of money out of the ATMs because dogs don't care about money. They just want everyone to be happy. This universe is full of creatures that want things. Cats that want vengeance, bears with secrets, planes haunted by horses. That web of wants and needs is what keeps you going.
"2021 has really felt like Hunt Showdown's year. While it was released in 2018, it's been quietly and steadily growing in strength, culminating this year with several sizable updates. But the thing is, even before all those little bells and whistles, Hunt Showdown is a real special game. I don't think I've ever played a multiplayer game that feels so atmospheric. There's a really profound sense of place as you track down the various monsters you're tasked with killing. Knowing that other players are out there, skulking around and competing for your bounty, adds to the tension, but even at base, Hunt's depiction of the Louisiana Bayou just before the turn of the century is haunting. Rot and decay have seeped into the foundation of every structure you come across. There's a sense that the monsters are the manifestations of its ills rather than the cause. These murky battlegrounds make for long, terrifying hunts, punctuated by quick, brutal violence. All these old guns are imprecise, and the need not to draw attention to yourself means you have to hack at monsters with knives and axes, and you'll be wading through water, mud, and carcasses wherever you go. It's a uniquely unpleasant thing that is nonetheless utterly captivating. It's a horror game where it's not only nasty monsters stalking you, but other humans. The small decisions you make, reacting as the state of the game shifts with other players' progress, have this beautiful rippling effect. Will you gun it straight for the bounty, leaving with your prize and avoid other humans? Or will you stake out an extraction, letting some other poor team bring the bounty to you for an ambush? You'll have bad games, but when a plan comes together and your quick, spur-of-the-moment strategy pays off, it's both satisfying and a huge relief. There's also a welcome variety of hunters available now, so you're not locked into playing as some gruff old white dudes. With time, it's become more varied and characterful, fleshing out a strange alternate Louisiana with a cast of cutthroats and misfits. There's nothing quite like Hunt Showdown, and for my dollars, it's the best multiplayer game you can play right now. I do not like Warhammer, or so I thought. Between Vermintide and Necromunda Hired Gun, I'm beginning to question myself. At the very least, I think this depiction and execution of one of its ultra-bleak settings is charismatic in a way that really worked for me. This is a far cry from the Imperium of Man, all bootlickers and fascists. This is cutthroat gangs and bounty hunters. Necromunda is a world of vast underground slums and factories, rendered in-game with enormous scale. Trains the size of towns, machinery built like cathedrals. There's a really cool variety of locales for a game that really only functionally had to have a set of corridors for you to run and shoot in. Instead, its overwhelming vastness makes your struggles feel feeble, but that only makes how hard you fight, how viciously you claw your way through always being outnumbered, more of a fuck you. While it has its rough edges, when the combat sings, it really sings. Wall running, grappling hooks, all manner of special abilities and guns to play with, you're armed to the teeth. You even have a cyber dog. No, that one. It might be the grim dark future of the 41st millennium, but I'm having a fucking blast. Adriatic Pizza is a game where you make, bake, and deliver pizza in a wee seaplane. What more do I need to say? Taking a big helping of inspiration from Porco Rosso, this chill little game has you hopping between islands and meeting residents' pizza orders. Visually, it's hardly the exquisite banquet of character and detail that you'll get from a Ghibli film, but it wisely doesn't try to be. Instead, finding a minimalist style that evokes that same feeling. There's a dreamlike quality to it, and the sparse but spirited music too, of a blissful summer's day. I adored its very specific escape. Games that give me defined roles to play are always the most rewarding for me, and well, I can't think of anything that offers seaplane pilot pizza delivery as a job title. If you want to take a holiday and soak up the warm sea air of the Adriatic, why wouldn't you? Then get on this. For Ghibli fans or not, this is one of the year's most pleasant, lovable creations. Ace Team are renowned for their strange games, and while Xenoclash remains dearest to my heart, the Eternal Cylinder might be the most accomplished title of theirs to date. The whole time I was playing, my curiosity was piqued by every new sight and sound, endlessly impressed by the variety of mutations and obstacles as my little party of weirdos rolled ever onward. You are a tiny, rapidly evolving creature who must keep ahead of this unstoppable rolling cylinder that crushes everything in its path. The Eternal Cylinder is unique and the perfect marriage of outlandish sights and straightforward story. What a mad, pure, wonderful wee thing. I will almost certainly never own a car. I'm too poor, I don't know how to drive, and well, I've been saddled with bags of guilt over my minuscule footprint on the planet's climate. In that sense, racing games are basically science fiction to me, and while that doesn't make Forza Horizon 5 remotely relatable, it does make it a wonderful piece of escapism. My friends and I all driving around somewhere we've never been together? What is this, Star Trek? The key, I think, to Forza Horizon's success is reducing the barriers to entry by one, making every single little thing you do give you rewards. Seriously, you can't knock over a cactus without getting a prize. Second, by making the majority of cars available from the start. There are few vehicles locked away, and most will be thrown at you in wheel spin. It just wants you to have fun, and actually understands what that means instead of throwing you on an endless treadmill as you crawl to get in the things you actually want. When you can do whatever you want, the onus is entirely on the game to make all the possibilities fun, and to Forza's credit, I've had an easy breezy good time since I started playing. Owning and driving a car is anything but simple in 2021, but in Forza Horizon 5 at least, it's as fun to be in as any spaceship. Despite many failed attempts, I didn't get into Monster Hunter until 2018's tremendous Monster Hunter World. As I'm told, Rise harkens back a little to prior entries, dumping the slow-paced preamble to fights of tracking down your foe one little clue at a time. Overall, I prefer World's plodding pace. I prefer to be lost in its detailed ecosystems for a while. But that said, Rise is a wonderful, fast-paced complement to all that. It cuts monster hunting down to the bare essentials and cranks the speed up with multiple ways to move and wire bugs and dogs you can ride into battle. And Rise boasts so much character and personality, a colourful as hell hangout spot for you and your mates. The ease of the social and multiplayer elements is the real bit that tips Rise over into the Game of the Year material. It's absurdly easy to hop in and out with friends, looking incredible for a thing you can play in your hands. The series still hasn't risen to engaging more thoughtfully with its core conceits and power fantasies, but they are at least less egregious here than in World, if for no other reason than there's decidedly fewer cutscenes. Monster Hunter is more of a hobby than a single experience at this point, and Rise is the easiest that hobby has ever been to play. But please, Capcom, please bring back this beautiful haircut. This isn't going to be the last time this will be relevant on this list, but goddamn, games really just don't do the everyday, do they? I don't mean low stakes or inconsequential necessarily, I just mean that small personal stories are hard to come by, especially ones set in the real world. No Longer Home is a semi-autobiographical tale that charts two students struggling through adulthood as they figure out, well, the same stuff most of us wrestle with. How to make ends meet, what career to follow, where to live, how to slot friends into our lives when we're all being pulled in so many different directions. In its two protagonists, No Longer Home expresses different but related feelings of feeling lost and aimless. How difficult it is to summon motivation when you're mentally unwell, and the world feels inherently hostile to your very existence. In its handful of hours, it tackles their inner lives with a touch of the surreal, capturing feelings of drifting from one moment to the next, struggling to keep a hold on reality. While it's heavy in its subject matter, there's a sweetness to its characters that helps illuminate the ways we cope with our problems by tackling them together. There's such a gorgeous, intricate little game like No Longer Home emerged from its creator's struggles speaks to the very beautiful collaboration that exists between us and points towards the kinds of communities that are vital to find and build. Jet, the Far Shore, is a hard game to pin down, but it's the biggest and most challenging video game I played this year. Big because it conveys so well a truly tremendous sense of scale. From its opening, where protagonist May leaves her dying homeworld on a 1,000-year journey to a mysterious world called the Far Shore, to the untouchable depths of its mysteries, Jet is a story too big for its characters, too big for us. That's what makes it partly so challenging. Unwilling or unable to, Jet doesn't provide answers to most of its mysteries. What was the strange signal that lured May and her people to this planet? What was behind the cosmic forces trying to prevent their inhabiting or terraforming this world? Within these unknowable questions are more grounded and quantifiable ones, about the ethics of colonization and space exploration. The game is reluctant to be playful, to let its alien world be treated like a playground. It makes a uniquely frustrating experience. I'm not surprised plenty bounced off it or think they're wrong for doing so. But I do admire a game which wants to make its players uncomfortable. Games are predisposed to sacrifice all meaning on the altar of fun, and that makes it difficult to tackle headier topics. Never mind uncouple our power fantasies from the real-world violences that inspire them. Not that Jet is a charmless void. Shooting around a planet in your little shuttle can be delightful and exhilarating. You just have to work hard to master its tricky movement. Everything on the far shore resists you, fights back against you. This was not a world meant for humans, yet here we are, determined to lay claim to it. The soundtrack weaves in awe and the mythic, but also a gentle unease throughout. Something unsettling stirs in the heart of this game. Even as you avoid violence, even as you obey considerations to indigenous species of this planet, the feeling won't shake that you shouldn't be here. For all its frustrations, I think Jet achieves exactly what it sets out to do, and boldly denies closure to its audience, in the face of dozens of sci-fi games where colonization is simply the bread and butter of existence. There's nothing else quite like it, and if you care about games as an art form, I'd say you owe it to yourself to experience it at least once. I've been waiting ages for a Metroid game, and I was super skeptical of this one going into it, ever since it was unveiled. I hadn't liked Mercury Steam's previous Metroid title, Samus Returns, a remake that very much missed the point of its source material. Yet Dread arrives with much more restraint and assuredness. It finds Samus back on the path sometime after her tale of self-destruction and fusion. She's an iconic character, and while Dread absolutely loves showing you how cool she can be, it also follows through on her character's journey, finding new growth for the stoic bounty hunter. It's those narrative beats and inner journey that elevate Dread above the many games like it in the years since its last entry. There's sublime combat, slick platforming, and some all-time boss fights. But it's the atmosphere and sense of Samus finally coming to terms with who and what she is that made this special. Other Metroid-like games have worlds every bit as complex, and some that are more intriguing. Planet ZDR is a great bit of mid-setting, but its own history is too vague to be wholly captivating. But I've not played any with that central journey. Too often characters are avatars for lining a world story. In Metroid, the two are inextricably tied together. Samus's adventures have always been dark and unflattering, with her heroics undermined by her indiscriminate violence. Only this time, Samus is clawing her way out of the pit she slowly descended into over the series. Metroid Dread is a cathartic conclusion to one of the medium's oldest sagas that I never thought we'd get. If you can abide a challenge and don't mind some weirdness, it's as must-play as anything in the last few years. I can't recall exactly what it was like to approach adolescence and be confronted with a realm of seemingly infinite possibilities of what your life could be. Sable is a game all about giving a stage to that point in youth where choices about the future feel both exciting and daunting. Our heroine is leaving her tribe on her gliding, an important part of a person's life where they must embark out into the world to explore and meet all manner of people to help them decide what they want to be in life. The stakes are not low for Sable. For her, they are as high as can be. This matters. But it's refreshing to see those stakes be so personal and introspective instead of wrapped up in the fate of worlds. Sable utilises its gentle, captivating desert world as a repository for stories about all the points between childhood and old age. For all the wonder and curiosity this vast landscape of forgotten temples and spaceships drew out of me, its people are what linger with me. Dozens of characters who will gladly share their own little wisdoms, the secret to their choices. If there's a fantasy to the world of Sable, it's one where an older generation collectively cares for the well-being of its youth. Sable is poignant, but playful and joyful throughout. Child me would have adored it, and adult me is left fondly reminiscing of days gone. Lake. I'm in the final year of my 20s here now, and my life isn't what I'd expected it to be or hoped it would be, to say the least. Often I feel adrift, unclear on what direction I'm going, and with nothing tying me down anywhere or to anyone. Lake's story about Meredith Weiss, a tech-savvy 30-something, taking her dad's postal job for a couple of weeks in her rural hometown, is all about these feelings. It's not a hopeless or dour exploration of my own difficulties. Lake is gentle in its navigation of adult longing. That's precisely what makes it such an appealing game, able to exist both as pure escapism and a reflection to my own desires. Driving around this sleepy, beautiful town to make deliveries, I didn't have to worry about money or making ends meet. Which, honestly, why do so many games revolve around having me juggle resources or currency? The fuck do I want to do that for? Instead, I can take my time and soak up the warmth of its surroundings. I mean, you have to take your time. You can't even run. The radio plays hokey-ass folk songs, not remotely tied to the game's 80s period setting, but they just make me smile. I like spending time with Meredith, a charmingly uncool woman who we seldom let exist in games, never mind lead them. The people she meets here aren't all happy, smiling faces. They have lives too, and aren't just props at Meredith's little getaway. But the conflicts between you and them that exist are small, genuine, but easily overcome. It's not pure fantasy, just a kinder version of reality. But that large body of water sits there in the middle. As the hours go by in the game, that lake feels like the body of these big, inescapable choices. Here we can circle them for a little while. Take some time for contemplation. As I delivered the mail, one day at a time, getting wrapped up in the lives of locals and making choices about them and Meredith's life going forward, I was delicately confronted with some truths about myself. What do you want? It's a question we spend most of our life being asked, by others and ourselves. With its distinct and relatable paths and endings, Lake lays out options plainly. And in the end, you have to choose. You can't have it all. Will you settle down in this town? Will you go back to your old job? Will you run away with someone special? And yes, Lake is a bit gay and it's very cute. Lake is certainly biased towards some of those outcomes, but all are permitted. There are no grand revelations in its stories, just a quiet few hours to contemplate a new direction in life. Lake helped me make some of those realizations about myself. I can't promise it'll have that effect on anyone who plays. But as a queer woman approaching her 30s, desperate to possess all the cornerstones of work, home and family, it hit me right in the heart. But like, gently.
Driving along the highway, headlights light up the signs.
So those were my games of the year, 2021. And if it's not too early, I've put together some games I'm excited about for next year. Take a look. And if you've enjoyed this video, please consider a wee like and subscribe, as well as maybe supporting me through my Patreon. There's a bunch of exclusive content on there for my supporters, and it's what allows me to keep doing what I'm doing. I want to say thank you to all my patrons, who have allowed me to work on various projects like this channel. Your support means everything. Thank you so much. We've got a lot of neat things coming in 2022.